So I have a friend from Chernobyl, Ukraine, right? And I honestly gotta say that he has a glowing personality.
That's too soon.
Hello everybody, welcome back to some more FTB Skies. In between episodes, I was actually able to fix up my automation for the atomic alloy. All I really had to do was just adjust the recipe a bit and put it into another chest so that way it could act as a buffer between the fuel and the actual stuff that I needed to do in here, because otherwise it just wasn't working for some reason. Since the auto crafting for it wasn't working with the upgrade for these things like I had with everything else, I had to adapt. And honestly, this kind of made it easier to have other things going into it too, such as automating steel as well. So, yeah. Kind of did a derp on this. Honestly, knowing what I do now, I probably could have made that a lot smaller beforehand, but you know what? It is fine. So now, we can now have ourselves some atomic alloy. I also was able to automate these HDPE sheets in between episodes. I actually already have a full drawer of them, and I only automated this literally just yesterday. It wasn't that long ago. Because yeah, all I really did was I just kind of had a thing to separate the ethylene going in between the gas burning generator and this thing. And I've managed to equalize everything, so it's not going to run low on it. I'm not going to run out of power. But yeah, everything, even though it looks a little bit wonky, it's all fine. I am going to back up on this, but that's why I put in a bunch of those black hole cards, so that way it would just get rid of anything unnecessary. And the reason I did that is because I'm going to need more sheets for other things along the road, so I figured I might as well take care of that now. Now, that being said, this is not the last we're going to see of this little compact machine, because we have more things to do inside of here today, because we are going to be making a type of fuel, and the reason for that is we're going to want to make a reactor sometime soon. Probably not this episode, but I will if I can fit it in. We're going to be trying to make this fissile fuel, and to make that, I'm going to need a little area, and the reason I'm making it in here is for two reasons. One is because it should fit if I do this properly, and the other reason is so that way I don't have more chunks loaded. So let's get started. So in order to make this fuel, we're going to need several other gases in order to make before that. One of these gases, and the first one we're going to try and start making, is going to be this sulfur trioxide. In order to make that, we need to chemical infuse oxygen and sulfur dioxide. So let's start off with the oxygen. In order to get that, we need to electrolytic separate water. So I'm going to need one of my sinks, and I'm also going to need my electrolytic separator and a bunch of pipes that I do not have. Alrighty, here we go. I got myself the pipes. So now we can take this pipes right here, and then it'll be able to send the water from here over into here. So long as the configuration is correct, it looks like it is. So then I can just go ahead and then set that thing on, and it's going to be taking in water. Now, it isn't going to work because it's not powered, but I do actually have a solution for that to be able to make all of this wireless, because I've actually been doing a little bit of research. So what I have right here is called a modular router. Now, how this thing works, if I understand it correctly, is it basically is able to transfer different amounts of power to different objects all at once. But I am going to need this thing right here called an energy output module. So I should just have to either right-click this, unless this is the wrong one. Yeah, these were the wrong ones, because I needed this thing right here called the energy distributor. Well, I mean, I do need these things to make it, so yeah, okay. Give me a minute. I'm just messing everything up today, okay? So, okay, yes, there we go. Now that works, and I should be able to do multiple blocks at once with the one card. So then I just need to pump power into this. Hopefully my power output is still fine. It looks like it is. Okay, I've been having issues with it, but now it is beginning to generate its stuff. So I only need the oxygen, so that thing can go away. I also completely forgot to upgrade all of these, but you know what, that's fine. Hopefully it won't be too much of a problem. If anything else, yeah, no, hang on a minute, I can just mute my game. Ah, sweet silence. Bet you didn't think about that, huh? Did you, mechanism? Well, anyways, there we go. Now we have the oxygen, so next we're going to need the sulfur dioxide. Now, to get that, we just need to chemical infuse sulfur dust, and to get that, we're going to need to crush down sulfur, which isn't actually a problem because I have gathered up a few things. So firstly, we're going to need to go ahead and then grab the crusher, and then we're going to want to put that here. I'm going to need to find which one of my ender chests contains the sulfur. That would be this one, and then I can send the items out from there into the crusher. So they should be able to go outwards if I can. Yeah, the right side's set to output. I need it to be input. There we go. And then the left side can go ahead and be output. I don't know why this thing's running. Oh, right, because I had some power stored in there. Oh, okay. Well, now at least we know that this is working. So then we just need to go ahead and then grab one of my chemical oxidizers and then put this here. And then I need to set the left side to input. No, I went too far. No, I need to set the right side to input and the left side to output. And I should have... Oh, right, because it needs to have auto eject on. So that way I can put the thing instantly into there. Okay, and then I also am going to need to connect these things as well. So yeah, it will continue to go to each of them. I'm pretty sure this does have a range of it though. So I am going to need to be careful about that. But yeah, here we go. Now we're generating the sulfur dioxide. Okay, so I ended up actually building these things a little bit too far away. But you know, it's fine. So why is this out of power? What? Oh, right, because I had taken this thing out because I was trying to check something. Okay, put this back in here. Okay, there we go. Now it should be working out just fine. And then we can go ahead and take one of our chemical infusers, put this here, and it should be inputting the stuff. I need the right side to be input as well. Why is it not input? Oh, right, because I didn't set this thing to auto eject as well. It's still not working. Oh, right, because I forgot I needed to go over to the gases one. Okay, there we go. So now those things should be going together, and then I can go ahead and then take this thing out once again, throw that there, and then put it back, and there we go. Now we got the sulfur trioxide. That is the first layer done. So the reason I'm doing it like this is just so that way it kind of works in a more of a formation thing, kind of to be more sorted out in a proper way. So that way we just sort of build up to getting the final product. So now that this sulfur trioxide is done, the next thing we're going to need is going to be water vapor, and the way we get that is just by decondensating some water. I'm going to need to take out my decondensator, and then I'm also going to need to grab the other sink, so we can put this thing right here, and then the sink can go right there. And then I can go ahead and take the fluid pipe and then pump this out into here. And then I can change this to the other side, and so that way water will be going into there. And then I'll also need to send this thing some power as well. Unlimited power. Well, actually, it's not unlimited. It's very limited. And then after that, I'm going to need another chemical infuser, which I have right here. And I can put this thing right here. So the water vapor is going into it, but then I also want this stuff to be going out up to here. So now with this, the stuff is going to be going into it. And I do need to send this thing power as well. So now that that thing is powered, it should start generating the sulfuric acid. There we go. And once I manage to upgrade all of these things, this should flow much better. And hopefully I'm still not constrained for power. I look okay. So now that we have the sulfuric acid, the next thing we need to make is going to be hydrofluoric acid, which is going to take sulfuric acid and fluorite inside of a chemical thingy-majigger. So I think that this needs to be a gas pipe. I'm pretty sure that is correct. And then I'm going to need to go ahead and then grab the chemical dissolution chamber. I'm just going to go back to calling it the chemical thingamajigger. So then we can put this thing... I need to be very careful. Wait, I can still fly? Wait, why can I still fly? I'm in a different dimension. I shouldn't be able to fly. My thing doesn't reach here. Okay, I'm not gonna complain. I have flight for some reason. Anyways, back to business. We can go ahead and then put this thing right here, and I should then just have to change this thing to this. Hopefully it is the sulfuric acid. It is the sulfuric acid. Okay, and then I can go ahead and then power this thing right now while we are here. And then we're going to need the fluorite. And I do know that the fluorite is inside of this chest. So then I can put this pipe here, and then I can put that chest there. Check just to make sure it is the fluorite. Okay, and then we can go ahead and then send that over to this, and it should start turning it into the hydrofluoric acid. There we go. This is a very easy setup so far, and I really appreciate it. So then after that, what we're going to need is this uranium oxidite, which takes the other chemical oxidizer and some yellow cake uranium. And the way I get that is by enriching some uranium. So in order to do that, we're going to need this final chest, which will go right here. And then I'm also going to need to go ahead and then grab this thing. Where is it? Here we go, right here. And then I can put that right here. Hopefully nothing's going in there. It is not. And then I can go ahead and put this pipe here, and then configure. Okay, there we go. And then the stuff should be going. Ah, right, because this thing is set to the wrong thing and is now set to input. It is not inputting. Oh. I realized what I did wrong. I did this one step too early. So what I need to do is I need to maneuver all of this off just a little bit, because I completely forgot that I needed to crush down the uranium first. Literally one of the most crucial steps of this whole thing, and it completely slipped my mind. Okay, so now this thing should start crushing this down into the yellow cake, and then that yellow cake should go into here. Once it finishes up, let us see just to make sure. Okay, it is. And 1 makes 2, so that's actually really good. How much does 1 give me? 250 millibuckets. Okay, so each of them gives me about 500 millibuckets. That's not bad. So then we reach the point where we're going to need the final chemical infuser, and then we can put this one right in between these two. The hydrofluoric acid is already going in, and then I'm also going to want the right one, which is already proper, which means it's a problem over here. Over on gases, we want this to be, okay, apparently not. We just want it to be input for this one, and it's working either way. Okay, cool. And then we can go ahead, power that last one, and there we go. That should be generating all of the uranium hexafluoride. Okay, there we go. And then with that, we just need to throw this into the isotopic centrifuge, which I've already also made like everything else. Go ahead and put that on the top, and then set this thing's gases to output on the top, and it should start going into here. There we go. And finally, we power this last one, and we power it. Why didn't it work? So now it's working. I just needed to hook up a flux point to it directly. It's just that for some reason this thing was not going into this thing, but okay, I mean, I guess that this works, and this can be upgraded as well. Okay, and that's good, because this thing's going to need to be much faster for it to work. So now all that's left for me to do is to just throw in upgrades in all of these and math out how much of each of these I need. This is why I automated a lot of that earlier stuff, was so I could work towards automating everything. But yeah, no, I mean, this is pretty much just the whole setup. It's very small, very easy. It looks like a little dude with a disproportionate long head. Oh, goodness gracious, that's actually kind of a funny thing to think about. I guess then that the last thing I can do is just put this chemical tank right here, so that way it can hold all the fissile fuel, and that way it's just gonna go right out into here. And this will kind of act as like the buffer for everything. So yeah, there we go, it's right there. Now let me throw in all the upgrades for everything of these real quick, and hopefully this will start going much faster.
A little longer than a few minutes later.
Alrighty, everything's fully upgraded, I say. For some reason, with some of them, the speed upgrades just were too much for them, so I wasn't able to actually have all of them fully upgraded. I'm guessing that's just because of, like, my limited amount of power or something. But I don't know, because, like, I mean, some of these things that I've had have just been giving me power problems regardless of anything. Like, things around them are just fine, but for some reason, a select few things are not okay. But while I was away, I also discovered these things right here, which will allow me to upgrade these things instantly. I just need to shift. Ah, yes, there we go. So I shift click these, and bam, now this thing is all the way at its maximum. Neat. I can do the same for this one right up here, and there we go. Now this thing is also completely full. I should probably also set these things to auto sort, so that way it just has everything evenly. And yeah, there we go. Now I won't run out of that stuff either. So I mean, it's not as if it's slow in its generation of fuel. And I mean, if I run low on fuel, that's not as big of a problem as if I were to run low on coolant. It's just going to be a matter of, you know, me speeding all this up. But considering that I'm building a reactor and going to be using that for power as well as other things, this should hopefully be fine, at least. Hopefully. Alrighty, so now that we have all of the fuel made up, it's time for us to make the reactor. Now, I won't really be putting it into use this video, because there's so much into actually doing it, I won't be able to complete it this time, but I will complete it the next time. So right now, it's mostly just about setting it up. So what we're first going to need is going to be these reactor casings, and I'm going to place this in a 7 by 7 fashion. And then I'm just going to need to fill in this entire box right here. Well, I say box, but it's more of like a square. So that way I just make it like this. And there we go. Then I'm just going to need to fill it. Do I have my wand still? I should still have my wand. Yeah, here it is right here in my extended inventory. So then I can just bring this all the way across like so. It's very, very easy. Gotta love the wands. So then after that, we're going to bring up these 4 corners by 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I'm going to do the same for the other sides. And there we go. Now we have that whole thing ready. And then after that, we just need to bring it in across all of these edges and then seal this thing up just like we did with the bottom floor. And it'll be very easy. I do not want you... Well, I mean, you're going to go there anyway, so what the heck. So I can just fill in the rest of these. I really would rather it didn't do that, but that's fine. So then we can just go ahead and then fill this up the rest of the way. No. I didn't make enough. So I went ahead and ended up making some more when it occurred to me right over here that I did actually make enough. I just accidentally put it on the walls. And I didn't want to do that. I mean, I guess if I wanted to ever extend this thing, I guess I could. So I could, like, make it go, like, downwards or something. But still, the fact that I derped out like that so hard, it's just slightly funny. Anyways, though, now after that, what we can do is we can fill in all of these sides with this reactor glass. And nothing wrong will happen to it. And all 4 of these are going to be almost exactly the same with a minor exception. And we can actually start this minor exception right here where I can go ahead and start putting in some of these reactor ports. So I can put one of these ports here, and I'm going to need to decide where else I want to put these. Okay, yeah, that looks good. So these parts will be for the fuel and the water. That part will be for the steam. And then this part can be for all the nuclear waste. That'll be good. That's a good setup we got right there. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to break blocks here, 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 and then here. And then in those places, I'm going to put these things right here, which is going to be for the reactor ports, and we will come back to this at a later date. Okay, so now then, we're going to need to make ourselves a little way in here, so that way we can work on the inside of here. So, what we're going to do is going to be a little bit interesting, to say the least. So, firstly, we're going to need to take these control rod assemblies, and then we're going to need to make kind of a grid-like thing going along like this. And then I can continue over on this side, and then I just fill in these little spots right down here. And there we go. That's the kind of setup that we're looking at. And then after that, I just need to take these things right here. So the way that these things work is these are what basically controls how strong the reactor is. And then they always need to have this thing right above them. But they can always have others as long as there's one of those at the top of how many there are. I think I said that in the right way. So now that they're all down like that, I should be able to bring them down a little bit closer. Okay, I can, but it looks like that my way out will be covered by this thing. So I'm going to need to fill this back up and then make a different way out right here. Okay, and then I can go ahead and then finish the setup. I'm gonna try it from back here, and yes, there we go. It now all works properly. So once I close that off, yep, the whole thing is completely built. So I can just right click on this thing, and yeah, I could always just turn it on whenever I want to, but I don't want to yet because that would be very bad. And I also made way more of these than I needed also. So this is where I'm a little iffy on things because I'm not sure how well this is going to do, because this whole thing hinges on one thing, that your water intake is greater than the amount of heat you're gaining with all of this. If you're losing too much coolant, this thing could blow up in a horrible, horrible way. So here is hoping that we don't do that. And the reason why I'm using these things is because that these are the fastest pipes I currently know of. There could be a faster one, and I'll probably look that up if this is insufficient. But so let's just throw this in and see how fastly this will fill up. I don't know if that's fast enough. I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure how adequate that is. So let's try putting more here along these lines and then exporting it even faster. I'm going to have to make do with this because this is really the only way that this is going to work out properly. So hopefully it's fine, but if not, I may have to look into other pipings. So now that we've got the water going into here, the next thing we're going to need to go in is going to be the fuel. And I have the perfect way of being able to get that fuel over to here. I really wish that stick thing would stop. So what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to make our way back into here. And let's see, hopefully everything is still running. Everything's looking good except for that lag. And it looks like we have over 3,000 buckets of fuel. That is actually pretty good. So then what we can do is we can go ahead and put this thing right here on top of that. And what this thing is it's basically an interdimensional way of transferring things. So I think I'm going to need to make a new network so we can just set this thing to, what do I want to call this? Yeah, that looks right. Okay, cool. So we got this on not deadly legit, and then we can pretty much just have this thing going, and we want, actually I'm pretty sure this thing should already have it set up, so then I just need to change this one to have the top to output, and auto eject is on. So now the fissile fuel will be in not deadly legit. So then what I can do is I can put this thing right here, because I don't want to put it right here because then the liquid thing's gonna start putting liquids in here, and we don't want that. And then change this to not deadly legit. Okay, and then I can finally use this gas pipe right here because for some reason, I don't know why, but fissile fuel is a gas, and I'll definitely need to change this thing out to another pipe, because I do know from my last mod pack that these pipes and mechanism don't really mix well. But I just don't have the other pipes at this current time, so we're just going to have to work with this. So now, it should be... It's not actually exporting it.
5 minutes later.
Oh, I know what my problem was. Okay, so this was set to input, and they need to be set to output. So if it is a gas, it should... There we go! Now it's going in. It actually filled up pretty much instantly. Huh. That's rather impressive, actually. Okay, so that's what my problem was. It wasn't anything else. It's just that I didn't configure this properly. Oh my goodness gracious. Okay, so now that that's done, we can now come back to what this whole thing is before we try starting this whole thing up. So basically what this thing is, it's a failsafe. So if in order to make this thing work, I cannot use the casing. I wanted to use the casing to make it look nice, but apparently I can't do that. Alright, then I guess I'm just gonna have to use stone instead of all this. Okay, so now that we have all of that, we need to grab ourselves some redstone-y stuff. So on these points right here, we need to put a comparator that's actually facing the thing, son of a gun, and I need to have it on all of these except for that top one right there. There we go. Okay, and then I can put this one right there. Okay, so then after that, we need to put redstone on... No, not redstone, just stone on the fronts. And then on this block right here, we need to put the redstone. And then on this one, we can put the torch. And then on top of that torch, we then put another block. And then right here, we then put some redstone. And that's basically the whole thing pretty much set up with the redstone-y stuff. So then in here, we need to set this to high temperatures. It doesn't stay. Okay, it does stay. And then this one up here can be access waste. And then at the bottom here, we'll have damage critical. Insufficient fuel does not matter, because at the top one, we are going to have activation. So basically what this is whenever this has redstone going into it, it'll allow this thing to keep going. But whenever any one of these issues is met, it'll send a redstone signal to this thing, which will cause it to deactivate. So it's basically kind of a cheesy way of stopping this in case anything goes wrong, and I'm not there to recognize it, and that way, it doesn't blow up. What a concept. So then right here, I can go ahead and put this nuclear waste barrel, and then I want to set this thing to output waste. and I can put this thing right here, so that way any of the waste that we're generating while I'm turning this thing on just to see if it'll work will just, you know, go into there. And that's the only way you can deal with waste. And lastly, we can go ahead and put another one here going into an alternate trash can, which will basically deal with all of the steam and stuff like that, because we don't currently need that, at least not now. So then, now what we need to do is to simply activate this and see how well the coolant works. So it won't dip, at least for a little bit, until it gets to a certain point. And it actually looks like it might be holding its own. I was not expecting this at all. That's really neat and all, but I mean, the steam is kind of beginning to flow in very rapidly, so I'm gonna scram this, which will turn it off. Okay, so since the steam is leaving, it is going into the trash can. It's just not going in fast enough. That is my issue. Okay, so I'm just going to need to grab some pipe upgrades and speed that thing up. Alrighty, I put an upgrade in there, so then let's turn this thing back on and try it again. And you can also actually, alter how much this stuff actually works. So like right now it only would be making 0.1 millibuckets of the waste a tick. So I do actually want this to be at 1 millibucket a tick. So I don't know if that's going to be a good idea, nor do I know how to do that. So we're going to just put it at 1, okay? And then let's watch the fuel, or the water rather. Is it fine? It still looks okay. I mean, that humming noise is terrible to listen to, and I'm not sure how far away I'm going to be able to hear that. Let's see. Okay, about here. Okay, that's good. So then, with just all of these pipes going into it, it's managing to sustain itself. I just don't know how well this would do if I make it any bigger. And I don't know if I'll need to make it any bigger, so we'll probably find that out another time, though. So basically what this is supposed to do is it takes the water and then it turns it into steam, and then with that steam, you could then send it over to a turbine of some kind, and it would basically then be able to generate power. And that's what I intend to do next video, whilst also making use of the nuclear waste that is produced by this, because with that, we are able to make two things. One of them is called polonium, which is actually going to be something we're going to need for an advancement right here. And then another one of those things right down here is going to be plutonium. And those things are just going to be what's generated from this. And then in here, we just have the nuclear waste. Now, there is no need for me to keep this on, because it's not going to make anything, and it's just going to waste the nuclear waste, and it may even fill this thing up. So I'm just going to turn this thing off for now, and we will leave it in use later. But yeah, that's pretty much the whole reactor itself done. I guess, in the end, I didn't need this hazmat suit that I made, because I didn't die. Wait a minute, what the heck happened to my water? What? How did my water break?
That's what she said.
Okay, I don't know how to process that, so let us just go into here and mark off our advancements. A few very good things. Most of it came from mekanism. We're almost done with the mekanism line, so I'm honestly very, very proud of that. So all that being said, don't forget to like, subscribe, and check out my last FTB Skies video. Bye-bye!